matters when adoption isn't a happy one. We have had this topic suggested to us and requested by one of our lovely listeners, and we are so delighted to be presenting our special guest, Philip Duxfield, today. And Carol-Ann, we are very, very blessed indeed, aren't we, that we have this opportunity just handed to us on a plate, right? To bring forward topics and guests that really support people's growth and development, and also when their heart's hurting and they need that extra care.
And it just, once again, good morning, Anaya, or good morning, Philip. But once again, it shows us how the synchronicities all work. You know, at the right time, everything will fall into place. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about the work that we do. And not that I think it's work, it's a lot of fun and laugh for what we do.
Okay, guys, so we are just going to do a little bit of housekeeping now, just getting things sorted out here. So, as always, I'd like to remind you that Angel Heart Radio programs are not to be used to replace your legal or medical advice or any professional advice for that matter, nor your own sound judgment. And to remind you that you have your own deep well of wisdom. It's innate. You have it, even if you don't realize it's there. And we want to support you to really connect in with that. So may I welcome Philip Duxfield. Now, Philip is, I'm just going to make sure I've got all my facts right here, Philip. Philip is the owner of Rogue Therapies here on Facebook and Philip Duxfield Counselling here in Brisbane, Australia. We are so delighted you're with us, Philip. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on your program. It's really quite it's quite a privilege to be able to share in something which is so near and dear to both of your hearts. So it's my genuine pleasure to be invited. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philip. Hey everyone, do you want to know how I came across Philip? This is how life works, right? Let me just get my restream sorted out. Here we go. So we had the request. So I put out a call to the universe, literally, universe, I'm calling you to send in someone professional, heart-centered, knowledgeable, experienced in this field so we can best support both this particular listener and all of our listeners. And then I left it at that. And then a mutual Earth Angel friend sent me some information about Philip after I'd explained what I was looking for. So Andre, bless you. Thank you. And Carol-Ann and I then promptly reached out to Philip, and we met on Sunday, and we knew instantly, Carol-Ann, didn't we, that Philip was the person that we really wanted to have with us to share this program.
Exactly. We just felt that Philip's energy and thoughts were what we were looking for the people who listen to our show, to come from that heart-centered space. And we had a very lovely couple of hours with Philip and his girlfriend, and so it was just confirmation all around, big ticks all around.
Big ticks all around. Philip, we are so grateful that there are people like you in the world doing the type of work you do, because if I'm correct in saying you don't consider yourself to be a regular counsellor.
I suppose that would be an apt way to describe it, yes. Although we must go through some of the regular channels to learn certain ways of doing things and respect the industry and the other professionals who work in the industry. But at a certain point, I think we have a responsibility and an obligation if we see something that we believe is not being done correctly or an area that is not being addressed or supported. Well, you got to step up. Well, you don't got to step up, but I certainly hope that people choose to step up.
Mm-hmm. And this, which is what you've done. Philip, I really appreciate the fact that you really highlight that we do respect everybody in this field for the work that they personally are doing. And the reason that I mention that you don't necessarily do things within the box is because there are a lot of people really coming into that deeper and highlighted awareness right now that as our vibrations are changing, as our spirits are really calling us to elevate our perspective, our vibration, and the way we're living in the world, sometimes the older methods don't necessarily sit well with us. And while some of those methods are going to be very important, there may be others that don't quite fit. And I think you're a good example, from what I know of you, that you're able to blend the two in a way that's meaningful to your clients.
Yes, and I wholeheartedly agree with what you say. Particularly, and we touched on this when we spoke on Sunday, didn't we, about how there is a bit of a movement en masse that we see around the world, where lots of people are sort of realizing that the traditional way of doing things, very backed by, and I use the term loosely because I'm not a fan of science. Science is the reason I have a lot of the spiritual views that I have today. But at the same time, traditional disciplines like psychology, psychotherapy, psychiatry, they are definitely wrestling to treat these conditions and these problems in the absence of spirituality. When if you add spirituality to those traditional disciplines, they fit so neatly, and one invariably leads back to the other. So yeah, again, I think that's sort of what we are, how our views meshed, certainly. Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Welcome to all our podcast listeners. I've got to say hi to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and welcome to all our live stream viewers. You can always join us here on Facebook, on our Angel Heart Radio Facebook page, because we just love sharing with you. And if you have any questions for Philip today while we're live, and I will make sure that his Facebook page and website are in the comments and the description of the show after we're finished, please do add them into the comments section while we're live, and Philip will be only too happy to chat with you while we're on the show about what's happening for you. So, Philip, getting back to the subject for today, when adoption isn't necessarily a happy one from the perspective of the person who's been adopted, the person who reached out to us has really been struggling, feeling for a long time that they were never acceptable as they were. Is this a common feeling for someone who is in the same type of situation or something similar?
It's a common feeling for anybody all the time. It's just, adoption can be a catalyst or something that can make these feelings worse, more pronounced. So you're definitely right. Adoption, some of the flow-on effects that a person can encounter, developmentally speaking, as a result of adoption, can lead to these identity issues, security issues, lots of these sorts of things. If that makes sense so far, yeah.
Absolutely. Caroline?
All right, I just muted myself because my other was ringing. And I agree, Philip. A lot of the things that are happening for people nowadays are not necessarily because they've been adopted. It's about a lot of the changes that are happening in the way we're living our lives, because we're living our lives completely different to what people did, when I was younger, say 30 and 40 years ago. And so there's lots of adjustments to be made there anyway. And depending on the age of the people who are doing the adoption and the adoptee, this can have a lot of multiplying effects. So, it's not just adoptees, it's everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people at this time, because there's so many changes happening as ascension is happening and all of those things that are happening in this world at the moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's so true. And Philip and Caroline, even for people who've not been adopted, often when we feel a bit different, I was always different. I don't think I ever really felt like I fit in anywhere growing up. So I can only imagine that if you are going through the process of understanding your own adoption with your adoptive family. And let's face it, there are just so many beautiful and wonderful and happy adoptions. We are talking about the adoption that isn't necessarily what might be expressed as a good fit for either, both, or all of the family members. When we don't feel that we fit anywhere, that can be quite a deep struggle that has a lot of offshoots that then begin to inform the way we feel about ourselves as we're growing up, our place in the world, and how we express ourselves. Philip?
Yes. In my therapy, a lot of my practice is based on a very, very simple concept, which I must say isn't mine. It was created and drafted by a very talented psychologist back in the 80s called Dr. Crabb. And at its essence, it says that we as human beings, and I mean right through the entire duration of our life, we only have two emotional needs, and they are the need to feel significant and the need to feel secure. So especially, and this can take on one of two forms, but primarily if you're a female, then your need to feel secure is your primary need. And once you feel secure, once you have an idea of what makes you feel secure, then you'll worry about your significance. And in males, this is reversed. You'll always be worrying about why you're significant first. And then if that need is satisfied, then you worry about why you're secure. So in relation to our topic of adoption, you can imagine how if you don't feel that significance or security, we'll start with security first because it's probably a bit more relevant to the subject of adoption. People, especially children, right, developmentally will feel a lot of security knowing that they have their family unit because their family gives them shelter, their family inspires them, so it gives them purpose, gives them a safe space to figure out who they are. It's a lot of intrinsic security and intrinsic security type values that you get from your family unit. If you don't have that family unit to draw on, it's basically, it's conflicting with your most deep, most basic emotional need, which is the need to feel secure. So in the absence of that, the need you're trying to address is the same. And to go and find a way to feel secure. And that can mean anything to you. You can feel secure from friends, you can feel secure from providing for yourself through a job, you can feel secure from your relationship with a higher power, but you need to address that need because that is the need that you're suffering from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and once you bring in that wonderful aspect of connecting to your own higher power, your own spirituality, whatever that may be, however you see a higher power, however you see some kind of loving force for good in your life, that then begins to open up the playing field, doesn't it? Because suddenly we're no longer feeling as restricted to how do I fix this or what is wrong with me. But that sort of comes as we get older, doesn't it? It's
Yeah,
a bit,
can do. Yeah.
it's a little bit trickier for young kids, unless they have someone in their life, of course, who's discussing these sorts of things with them. So for the young child who doesn't feel like they fit or doesn't feel acceptable, it can be a very lonely journey.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And especially for a young child, it's kind of one of those unusual dichotomies, right? Like children understand the concept of a higher power instantly and easily, whereas as adults, we might have a far more difficult time wrapping our head around something like that. We need a bit more of a rational discussion. But at the same time, I think it can be harder for children to gain all of those emotional rewards and emotional stabilities that they can gain from a higher power because they get it on a heart level, but not a head level. And if you can get it on a head level, you can start going, I can move forward through life because I'm going to be okay because someone is looking after me. Whereas for children, I think it's a bit more important to have that physical, who is looking after me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we see that with our own grandkids, don't we, Caroline? And your grandchildren are a bit older than mine. But, you know, I had a conversation with my grandson actually just a week or so ago where and this is a really great example of the little things that make such a big difference. And he'd done something that he knew he was going to get in trouble for, right? And what is a child's first reaction? They're going to fib to you. And it's not because they are liars, it's because they want to feel safe, right?
Yeah.
So he said, no, I didn't. And so I just quietly went to him and I said, you know what, Bailey? There's absolutely nothing that you will ever do or say or think or feel that you can't tell me about, and I won't love you through. And he looked at me and his whole face just opened like a flower.
Mm.
You know, and I said, I always believe in you, Bailey, and we can always work through these things now. Can you tell me really what happened?
What a perfect example of how powerful that simple need is for our unconditional love, and how much it never goes away. Hey, it's so easy to see the effects of the benefits of when you're a child, but it's no less necessary when you're a high functioning, high powered, very super intelligent man or woman. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. And this is it, the unconditional love is in some cases is underrated. And you know, but to me it's the core of everything, unconditional love, for ourselves and for everybody else. Because if we don't have it for ourselves, we can't have it for anyone else. But yes, as adults, you know, it's very important to express that unconditional love to one another, and no matter what the situation is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if you guys have any questions for Philip, it's very quiet in the chat room today, actually. If you guys have any questions, it is, isn't it? Unusually quiet, which in some ways sort of opens the playing field up for us to really get deeply into this topic and its offshoots. Thank you, Maz. Maz has got to go. Tibet's with us. Maz has been with us. Thank you, Maz. She's got to go now. But what a show, guys. You're a gem, Maz. Thank you. So if anybody has any questions for Philip about your own life experience that you would like a perspective on, or maybe a bit of guidance on, or maybe an idea on how to open up, and Elaine's with us. Welcome, Elaine Fairburn. We love you. Please do put it in the comment section of the live stream, and I'll make sure Philip gets to hear about it, and he'll be able to respond to you. This need for unconditional love, like you say, Philip and Caroline, it never goes away. And I think that's part of the beauty of it, because the more that we ourselves understand how essential it is that we have one person, just even one person, who expresses unconditional love for us, that is that safety net. That is that feeling of, I'm okay.
Yeah. And of course, it can be harder and harder and harder these days. I can almost hear people saying out there, but I don't have anyone who can show me that unconditional love. And I totally get that. It is getting harder and harder and harder to find examples of people who are happy to give you that unconditional love. I love the way a woman I used to work with a few years ago when I was doing group therapy in New Zealand referred to them as 2 a.m. friends. So if I called you at 2 a.m., would you drop everything, you rush out of bed and be at my side no matter what? It's a rare gift, and it's not something we all have, which to me only highlights the importance of having a good relationship with your higher power, because that's really the only other place to go. You've got nowhere else. If you haven't got any friends, it's the higher power, or you're really doing it alone, which is just rough. And some people choose that. More power to you. If that's, can't tell you how to live your life, never would. But boy, it gets rough out there sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think people have found it a bit tougher when we've had lockdown, because, you know, some people have just felt that they have nobody to reach out to because they can't, they're used to, say, the physical touch, but your love goes through any barrier. It doesn't need to necessarily have a physical touch, because to me, I just think that, you know, I just sort of love and receive love so much from my family and friends, because when we were in lockdown, you know, it was like, oh, I can't give you a hug, I can't do this, I can't do that. But there were so many other ways that we could show our unconditional love. And so we have telephones, we have Zoom, we have so many ways. And we have little things called letters and cards. And, and all of those kinds of things. But talking about the 2 a.m. experience, I experienced that a few years ago from a friend who rang me, and she said, I have food poisoning. I have nobody else to call. Can you come? And so, it was like I felt blessed that she actually realised she could ask me to do that. And I thought, she really does understand the unconditional love that is between us.
And
so,
Caroline, if I can interject quickly, you make such an excellent point, which is if you want more of something, start by giving it away.
Exactly.
And everybody has some love to give away. So
Yeah.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, I actually was smiling this morning when I was looking at the news, and of course Captain Tom in England made his transition, the 100-year-old gentleman, and they in England they're doing a clap. So everybody at certain times is doing a clap to show their love for Captain Tom. And I thought to myself, this is another example, that's showing his family, and his spirit will be recognizing what's happening. But, it was just so interesting that people even thought to do that they're showing their love in so many ways for him, but we can show it in so many ways for everybody because it's so important.
Yeah, now more than ever, hey.
Definitely. So.
Okay, so we have someone from Angel Heart Radio with us. I don't know who it is. Might be Annette. I don't know. And there was a really great question that they've asked. I just want to touch on that topic before we shift away from it. I love what you've shared, Caroline. You have this way, everybody wants a little bit of Caroline magic in their life, right? Because you have this way of simply bringing forward an observation or an understanding in a very simple manner. And I love that about you. So I want to say thank you. It was to Beth, not Annette. Yeah, I wondered if it was, anyway. So I just want to say to you on this subject, everyone, that if you do not have a 2 a.m. friend, because we know that when we're suffering or grieving and it's the early hours, it feels much worse than at any other time.
Definitely.
It's the loneliest time of all if it's through the early hours. And if you're really struggling with that, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to any number, Lifeline. There are lots of different, the Blue Dog, is that what it's called, Philip, in Australia? Blue Dog, blue, type
Might
in.
actually be the Black Dog.
The Black Dog,
I think is the suicide support.
Yeah, support lines for depressed people in the middle of the night, for example, into Google. Never hesitate to reach out, because sometimes it's that moment, that critical moment where we make choices and decisions that in the cold light of day or after a bit of a time away from it, or we've had a chance to talk to someone, the choices don't seem like they're the ones we should make anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Never want you to not
That's
reach.
a great suggestion. Great suggestion. Yes.
Yeah.
I've recently started looking on Facebook to see what sort of support groups are out there, and there is just about one for every person at every stage and every problem. And I've heard some incredible stories just from young parenting support groups where it'll be 2 a.m. and they'll just be tired and struggling and their baby won't sleep, and they'll just jump on Facebook and go, is anybody else out there? And there'll be somebody else going through exactly the same thing who just wants to go, yes. And that can just be so powerful, just to know you're actually not going through it alone.
Yep.
Yeah, it is just amazing what is out there, and to know that you're not alone, and to be able to, I have to admit, I didn't like Facebook when it first came out. I'm old-fashioned and all the rest of it, showing my age now. But I didn't like it in the beginning, but now I realise just how much support the right people on Facebook can give people. There's a lot of rubbish on Facebook, so you need to sift through that. But there is a lot of love on Facebook and a lot of support on Facebook. And so it can lead you to an amazing place. Well, you know, Facebook led us to you, Philip, let's be honest here. Because of the
Yeah.
questions that were raised, and it led us to you. And
Mm.
so, you know, it's never feel alone. You know, you're not alone. So never feel that there's nobody to support you, because there's lots of people out
Amen to that.
Yeah. It's sometimes difficult to feel that, to recognize it, to connect with it. And we all know that. I personally, in my own life, have had many struggles, and there have been times where I felt so desperately alone, so desperately unloved, and so desperately wrong as a human being. I just didn't know what to do and where to go and how to not feel that way. I didn't want to feel that way. And so, you know, you try a lot of things. For me, food was always a big one. You know, I used to be able to eat a whole chocolate cake because that was one of the ways that I wanted to feel better. Now, I've since learned that there are strategies that I can use. And I actually joined a 12-step program called Emotions Anonymous. And Philip, it was an amazing choice, because suddenly I was in an environment where people actually listened to me. They didn't interrupt. They didn't tell me how to feel. They didn't tell me what to do, what I shouldn't be doing. And I got to be heard. And that was a real game changer for me. That really began to change the shape of my life.
Sounds like unconditional love.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Well, it's unconditional acceptance at the very least.
Yes.
And actually, I was only thinking about it the other day, because, gosh, this was a long time ago now. It must be maybe the early 90s. I was only remembering a fellow that used to come to the group every single week, and he never said a word. He didn't come to share. He came for the company.
Wow.
And I thought, what a great choice.
Yeah.
He found somewhere that he felt safe, and no one would challenge him for being there. And then we all got to have a cuppa afterwards in a bicky and talk amongst ourselves. And it was really fantastic. So what it really was under it, all of that, was fellowship for him. And that can come in many ways, can't it? It can be a church group. It can be a spiritual support group. It can be a offset program. As I've said, there are lots of ways. So I'm really sharing this with you because I'd like to hopefully offer you the opportunity to think about, maybe there are some ways, if you're struggling and feeling alone, that you haven't considered. Rogue Therapies is on Facebook. What's your website, Philip, what's your website?
I won't give you the website because I'm actually redeveloping it at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm making a whole new one. So the best place to go is Facebook, to Rogue Therapies. That's a primary contact channel at the moment. So,
Fantastic.
And of course, everybody is welcome. I have a team of people who are coming to me and saying, I want to help. So I have people standing by, if I may coin the phrase.
I love that. I love that.
Me.
Caroline?
You may coin that phrase. So now, Anaya,
Thank
were
you.
you going to ask Philip the question that our Angel Heart Radio person had asked?
Oh, yeah, thanks, because I forgot.
I know. This is why I'm here, really.
You're in the headlights. I forgot.
So that's clear.
Okay, Caroline. And this is an awesome question. I can't find it. Oh, for heaven's sakes, Caroline, here it is.
Okay.
Have you covered?
Have you covered a child who is the odd one out of the family that it was born into?
Sorry, the odd one out of the family
That he was born into. It's not
that was
adopted.
born into.
That
Yes.
was born in a family and they're the odd one out.
Yes, I have. I once provided counselling and psychotherapy for, I think she was about 8 years old at the time. And her mother had remarried, and her new partner, I think, either had a daughter or they'd had a new daughter together. And so, as you can imagine, the new daughter needed a lot of attention and was getting a lot of the focus of the family. So, as a result, the the young girl, she started to display a lot of those classic symptoms of I need attention. Things like suddenly acting out at school, grades going down, being a bit more just stepping back from the family unit a bit.
Yeah.
Which was it was all completely natural. She felt that her place in the family unit was being challenged, and on some level, obviously, she knew that her mum wasn't going to abandon her, but it didn't stop her having these pronounced feelings of what is my place in the family, and just having to redefine all these things at a very delicate and a very crucial point in their development as well. And again, it is a very crucial point. There's some very powerful things to be addressed when it comes to social development throughout our childhood, because we look at different things through different sections of our childhood. When we're 0 to 3 years old, all we want to know is that we're safe and fed and have a mum and dad to hug. When we get to that 3 to 8 period, we need to know we have that safety to fall back on, but know that we're free enough to explore our environment, find some frustrations, be allowed to be frustrated, and then experience some growth, because that's how children grow. Their environments, they break things, they get messy, they hurt themselves, all part of natural growing. But at this time, obviously, if the family unit gets challenged and they don't feel as though they have that secure place to fall back on, that's a massively, it can be quite tormenting for a child to go through. But the answer, of course, is still the same. The thing they need is security. So just lots and lots of reassurance, and it can be quite obvious reassurance. Just sit down with that child one day and say, our family unit has changed, our relationship has not. I'm still your mother, I'm still your father, I will love you no matter what. Again, unconditional love, just that resounding, repeated message until it sinks in. The brain is a computer, but it's a bit slow. Sometimes you've got to hammer that message in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes as long as it takes.
And that's hard sometimes too, isn't it, Philip? And, any parent knows this. You have the best intentions for yourself and your relationship with your child as a parent. You want to give the best you can. You want to, show them unconditional love. You want so much. And yet, all of a sudden, and welcome Fatima. Oh, we love you. Love it when you join us. Erin says unconditional listening in response to before. But we get triggered and all our stuff comes up, and we're tired, and we may be overworked. We may be burdened with a lot of other stresses that, of course, children can't understand. We are acting out as well, right? And sometimes we behave in a way that later on you're horrified with. You might have yelled and screamed at your child. I don't think there's a parent alive who hasn't at some stage, to be perfectly frank. But it's a terrible feeling later, particularly when you see their face crumple and you see them over time begin to shut off from you, which is a natural part of their childhood growth and development anyway. They're sort of stepping away from, when they're little, we are everything. We're like God. We know everything, right?
Yeah.
So looking at children who don't feel that they fit in, and back to the topic of the adoption, not feeling that you fit into your family or that you're acceptable, having this experience of not feeling that you have any unconditional love, whether that is a perception on the child's part or not, is kind of irrelevant, isn't it? Because that's how they feel. So to them, it is truth.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So how do we proceed? As you get older and you take this in and you begin to believe that is truth, how can we start to sort of take that puzzle apart? Because the feelings become so overwhelming, and those feelings are then, sort of trapped within other feelings. And over years, if we've not been able to address any of it, sometimes we don't even know really what the core of it is for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the important thing is to always focus on what the core issue is. So it may not be, but it's probably, if you're a female, it's probably the need for a security. And this is it is your most core, most deep need. So it has to be addressed. And if you don't know where your security comes from, then it will affect you every second of every day for the rest of your life. And as Anaya and Caroline were saying, there are lots of support groups out there. If you need to just start exploring and finding people who are ready to offer that unconditional acceptance, it's a great place to start. And if you're not sure about where you get your emotional security from, it's time to start asking those questions. Because even very, very high functioning and healthy people, and I see this a lot when I sit down with very successful people, is even they don't know that they're trying to address this idea of security, which is actually what we in the business call maladaptive. So they may have been shown completely by accident from their parents that, for example, the only security in your life is money. And they don't know that there is an idea like this in their subconscious, but they'll spend their whole life satisfying this need to, I don't feel safe unless I earn money.
Yeah.
And it can break their marriages, it can break their friendships, it can break their whole life because they're a slave to this subconscious belief.
Yeah.
So it's essential, I believe, for anybody to really, I mean, to know thyself. Again, if I may coin a phrase, yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go on.
No, go on, Philip. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just getting back to the original point. If you're a female and you're worrying about your place in the world and you're feeling this ongoing trauma from your lack of family units, start thinking about questioning and seeking out that idea of security, because it will be the basis on which you build all of your emotional stability from that point on.
Okay, and what are the likely outlets if you're a male and the likely ramifications of feeling that way? I mean, we are generalizing here and we acknowledge that. However, there do seem to be certain patterns that can flow through, don't there?
Yes, yeah. So as I said before, if you're a male, your primary need is significance.
Thank you.
And the funny thing is, it could be the same thing. Your parents might have been very successful. People may have always shown them deference and respect because they had lots of money. And so you might do the same thing. You might be a slave to your job. And if you ever get fired or your job ever comes under attack, you might find that a very crippling notion, and it might put you to the point of, or even over the point of, emotional breakdown. And you might be like, I don't know why people lose their jobs every day. They're just going to find another one. Why is it so hard for me to go through the same thing? And again, it's because it may be more tied up into your own vision or your own interpretation of yourself than you're aware of, because it's all buried in your subconscious. And it's just pressing you into these decisions and these motivators every day. And there's other things to be aware of as well, because there are certain things that are imprinted on us from our parents, developmentally speaking, which if your parents aren't around, you may miss out on. So the obvious ones are, we get a good idea of how we are to behave in relationships from our mother figure, but we get our work ethic from our father figure. These are just quintessential role models, which are hardwired to give us impressions of our, just who we're going to be in adult life. So again, if you're missing a strong male role model, or if you're missing a strong female role model, identifying those developmental aspects which that are going to lead out of you. For example, who am I in a relationship? What's my work ethic like? Just identifying, I may have missed that. I should go and find one. Who can be my male role model? Who can be my female role model? Who can show me how to be in a relationship? That sort of thing.
That's brilliant. And I love that too, because it means that, say we've been in a relationship where we don't feel that the role models we've had are people that we can actually relate to as adults ourselves. We've got so many powers available to us, the power of choice being one, the power of discernment. And sometimes that's quite tricky, because discernment can be very tricky if you're caught in your core issue. We've got some great comments here that I'm going to bring through in a second, but I just wanted to say that whatever you're doing, whatever's happening for you, this is the way I learned to discern what was really going on for me. How do I feel in my belly? For some people, it might be their heart. For me, it was my belly. If I was in knots, that was I learned to understand that was a very clear indication to me that I was struggling to make sense of how I was behaving and how I was perceiving the world around me. And that was really the very first step to learn how to go within and start doing my inner work. So begin to understand, talk to your body, let it talk to you. what is your body saying to you? Because our bodies will always reflect back to us, won't they, Philip?
Mm.
What's happening in our heart, our mind, our emotions, all of it.
Yeah, and it's probably a bit redundant to tell people to, because anybody who's on this channel is probably already very good at being introspective, and it's not a skill that everybody has innately. So if there is anybody on the channel who's not good at being introspective, definitely can I encourage you to try and embrace that skill. If it's just like sitting aside half an hour at the end of the day to look back on the things you said, the ways you acted, how you treated people, and go, am I happy with how I'm treating people? Because a lot of what you're doing is going to be a byproduct of the life you've been exposed to up until this point. But you don't have to be a byproduct. You can choose the person you want to be, but it takes being introspective first.
It does, and that can be very scary when
yes,
you're scared, right? That is such a brave journey.
Yeah.
Caroline, I'm going to bring through Fatima's comment. I'd like you to do Erin's, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
You go first on, because I've been talking for quite a while.
That's unusual. So Erin has said, I had a different perspective on what was unconditional love as a child. As from day dot, I was told by my mum that she had me to give her unconditional love. And she had never felt that from her family. So I grew up thinking my place was to give and not receive.
Wow, what an interesting result of that. Let's be frank, that pressure and expectations that was put on by your mum. Wow. And I'd be very interested to see how those pressures translated into all of your future relationships. Did you assume that role in all of your romantic relationships going ahead? And how did that work out for you? Did you get stuck in that pattern of always being the giver, which can be not necessarily, it doesn't mean your relationship is not going to work, but you may leave yourself more exposed to people who would take advantage of you.
Yeah. So Erin, if you can let us know.
Yep.
The answer to Philip's question.
That'd be great. Thank you. Philip, people can work with you online, correct?
Correct, yes.
How do people get a hold of you? Through your page, I'm gathering, but let's just say they're asking the question, well, how does he work online? Can you just give us a little bit of a thumbnail about that, please?
Yep, just go to the Facebook page and you can message me directly. My email address is there as well. We're happy to do all our communications through messages if that's what you're more comfortable with. If you want to set up a video chat, obviously we can facilitate that for you as well.
Awesome. I love that. Love it. Love the options, Philip. Because this is the thing, isn't it? It's not everybody works the same or has the same comfort level, or their needs may not start off from the same platform, right? So you can
Indeed.
start off quite gently and then proceed if you feel good about it, or, you know, leave it go if you're not quite sure. So I love that, Philip. Well done. Okay. And again, everyone, Philip has put together a team of people. So there is going to be someone there who can support you no matter what it is you're experiencing or need assistance with. Okay, so our lovely Fatima says, I love Philip's message of great wisdom and unconditional love for children especially. Oh, I'm moved and inspired to practice and show that unconditional love toward my own inner child.
Oh, wow, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for the very, very kind words. Thank you.
Wonderful. And isn't that a great point that she's made? Showing this unconditional love to our own inner child. And sometimes it's quite a bit of a trick, especially when you're first starting. I was always so hard on myself. I expected myself to be perfect in everything. And I shared with you the other day, and I've shared with lots of you guys too, that my main behaviors were people pleasing and rescuing. So I felt like I was responsible for the entire planet and everyone and everything on it. And I have to work on that every single day, right? I have to work on that all the time. If I see a piece of rubbish on the side of the road, big bit of plastic, for example, on the highway, and I can't stop and get it, I start to panic. Who's going to pick up that, it can end up in a waterway? Who's? So it's that introspection. And now you're not in charge of the world. There is a higher power angels, please provide someone or a way for that to be taken care of. Thank you. Have to walk away from it. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into this. Interesting. Erin's mother and mine are similar, to Beth says. See how conversation opens up understandings and
Wow.
helps us to really connect in with ourselves, doesn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So
Well,
how do
the interesting thing was Erin hasn't got back to us yet. But to Beth, seeing as you're on there, so how did that, in your mother being like that, did that, I don't know a lot about you, to Beth, I know that Anaya does. Did that affect your relationships as you started going out in the world?
And Beth's mum is no longer on the planet.
Okay.
So, you know, she made her transition quite a long time ago now. So, Philip, what about people who are experiencing these issues and they don't have a parent to talk to or write a letter to or ask questions of?
There are quite powerful therapy techniques we can do, which, so that, of course, the hardest thing about getting closure for someone who is not with us anymore is getting closure because they're not with us anymore. But the good news is there are some very, very talented people, and this is going back quite a way, who have developed some techniques of bringing those people, in essence, or as far as your subconscious is concerned, bringing them back into the present so that you can deal with them in that way. So don't feel that closure is not available. It definitely is. It's just a matter of seeking out people who can assist you in getting that closure and take you through. And yeah, obviously you want to find someone who's trained to take you through that journey, because when you open things up in your subconscious, the one thing you want to make do is that you round it out before you close it again. So if you're going to go into that space, you've got to go the whole way through and then get a nice comfortable resolution and then close it again. You don't want to open that little box and then send you off in the world and go, yeah, good luck, because that can be quite again, traumatic. So but yeah, be encouraged. There are definitely ways in which you can address that loss, and achieve some catharsis. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, Beth says, always trying to please in answer to your question.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Or that might have been Carol Ann's question, actually.
no, it was about how she went in her relationships, etc. But
Yeah,
Erin
always
has also
please.
responded, and she has said it has affected every relationship, from partners to friendships, with often getting taken advantage of. Also led to an unhealthy relationship with my mum, who hasn't coped with me getting married and having children because my love was going elsewhere. The guilt I carried with that affected so many life decisions I made, because I was making choices to always please my mother and not myself. Whoa.
Yeah. And what a difficult relationship to ever have to say a polite no to, or B, even walk away from the relationship with your mother. Because straight away that voice in your head says, I should do everything I can to maintain my relationship with my mother, or those expectations of she's my mother, so she must always be, or I must always do, or must. When the reality is sometimes the best thing you can say to a person is, okay, there's the line, I'm drawing it, and if you can't respect my boundaries, then I'm walking away. Having said that, though, I know a lot of people will say, oh, you're the consistent giver in the relationship, people take advantage of you, you have to change. Can I just say, you don't have to change. If you meet the right people and your role in a relationship is a giver, it can still work. Most healthy relationships do have a giver and a taker, just like most healthy relationships have a spender and a saver, or someone who prefers to be at home and someone who prefers to go out. A healthy relationship is balanced. It's not finding your carbon copy. But at the same time, if you're going to make your peace and accept your relationship role as a giver, you have to watch for the people who are just taking advantage of you and go, yeah, cool, that's all the chances you get, walking away, enjoy the rest of your life. No hard feelings, but I'm done.
Yeah. We've got to have boundaries. We must. and healthy boundaries, in my experience anyway, Philip, aren't just something that I say, well, I'm going to have healthy boundaries today. It's taken a really, really, really long time, and I'm learning about that all the time. And there are shades of it. Well, okay, I'm going to have a healthy boundary, but you've treated me rather badly today, but you're tired, it's all right. That was sort of my kind of thing. Whereas over a period of time, I began to realize that healthy relationships, for me personally, in my view, for me, require respect. And let's just say someone's tired and snappy and they snap at you, that's fine, as long as there's that follow-up. Look, I realized later, I realized I snapped at you, I'm sorry. You've got to make amends to people, and you've got to be responsible for the ownership of your part of a relationship. And I require that of myself. But that again has taken me a very long time, and that will obviously be something I'll be working on forever, because that's what we do. So it's okay, isn't it? It's okay to have flux and movement, because we're learning all the time. We're not perfect, in relationships. That's why we're here learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in relationships as well, I'm often challenging I'm challenging men, but I'm quite old-fashioned when it comes to relationship rules and roles. But I like that. I like to challenge men to, if you want to be the head of the household, then you have one role. You have to be the rock of your family. You have to be their provider. You have to give everything you are to them, and everyone you are. And then maybe then they will treat you like the head of the household, but step up.
Yeah.
And so allow your partner to have her bad days. Allow her to be miserable sometimes. Allow her to snap at you, and choose to be okay with that. Choose to take it with zero offense. Choose to let her do whatever she has to do in whatever way, and take on the chin. That's your role. And if you can't fulfill that, maybe you're not ready for a serious relationship. Like, I love to challenge men to be better. And as far as the woman, as you say, like, you've got to give yourself permission to have bad days. Everybody does. And if you can't give yourself permission to be, dare I say, unlovable at times, then you'll never accept other people when they love you, when you're, unlovable. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
We have to allow ourselves to be human.
We really, truly do.
Finding that balance in the relationships, it's jolly hard work, but it's worth the hard work. So, but that doesn't mean you don't have a day that you just think, what on earth am I doing here? So, but then it's all about, later on you stop and you look back on the day and think about the past, and that was a little tiny pimple on the surface of the planet. So, it's not worth getting upset about it. So much more is in your life, and appreciating what's in your life. So, it is definitely a two-way street, but also finding your balance in your relationship, for me, is important.
And I really appreciate, we've got some more comments here, Philip, but I really appreciate the fact that you're talking about us all stepping up. And that then feeds me into the benefits and the wonder of gratitude. So, if we're going to be there in a relationship, and we're going to be present, and we're going to be heart-centered to the best of our ability, given that we're going to have bad days, and given that we're going to be snappy, and given that all of those things, right? That's a given. But when we have gratitude for ourselves and our partner, and one of the things that's always irked me is when, because I used to do it, and that's why it still triggers me. I'd ask my husband, could you look after the kids while I go shopping? So I was taking complete ownership. These are my children's. They're my responsibility. You don't have to do anything. Would it be okay if you stepped up for, an hour and a half while I go shopping, right? Or thank you for doing the dishes for me. Whereas now I feel like we've got 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 feet, like I have. And it's not about, well, you go, it's not about, hands aren't painted on, right? So it isn't about, well, I will do all this for you and hope you love me back, right? It's about how can we work together in a mutually beneficial and respectful way. And when the days come up that you just don't have it in you to do your bit, and I've got it, I will give that to you, and vice versa. So then it's like a dance, isn't it? The music begins to flow between us. And these are a lot of old patternings that we can be carrying and maybe not even know. Erin says, yes, healthy boundaries is what I've been working on. The most difficult is with my mum. Changing the boundaries after 36 years doesn't come without resistance. But hey, no one gets to change your boundaries. Now, here's a little example if this is any use to you, Erin, at all. So, I'm sure this would be very familiar to a lot of you. I'd pick mum up to go to take her shopping. And I'd say to her, Mum, I've got to leave by 12 because I've got this, and this happening this afternoon. Okay. So Mum says to me this one particular day, I'll just go and get my script from the chemist. Well, she was gone for about 10 years. It's like 12 o'clock came and went. Where is my mother? And I went up to the chemist, and here she was having a fine old chat with everyone, in no mood to leave anytime soon. And I was really cranky with her. And it was later on, my friend Javelle and I were talking about it, and he sort of helped me to see that it wasn't that mum wasn't respecting my boundaries. I wasn't putting the boundaries out in a way that were solid. So I learned to say things like, Mum, I've got to be finished by 12 o'clock today, but you take your time. If you're not finished for me to get you home by 12, that's okay. You can always catch a cab. Boom. Right?
Very good.
She was finished by 12 o'clock every single time. So that's the thing. I always thought mum had to buy into my boundaries for me to be able to have those boundaries. And she helped me to understand that I'm responsible for my own boundaries, and I'm responsible for the clear communication of them in a way that, really meant something. But wishy-washy, I've got to be finished because, and if I'm late, then this will happen. That's a whole lot of information that just muddies the water, really.
It just went over her head.
That's right. It didn't, because mum was lonely.
Oh. Yeah.
She was in that chemist having a lovely time chatting to people because she was lonely.
Yeah.
And Beth says here that she was so fortunate that she got to really heal her relationship with her mum over a 20-year period before she passed. And I was really blessed as well because I had so many issues with my mum and my dad. Most of them were blame-based from my part. And doing things like that helped me to heal and find peace. And when mum passed, I didn't carry any of that with me. There was so much love there and gratitude for the time that we spent together. But it was hard work, and I had to take responsibility.
I have heard other stories of a similar ilk where children of abusive parents have chosen to, you might say, do the right thing, chosen to look after them in their twilight years. And it's repaired everybody. It hasn't just repaired the children, it's repaired the parents as well. Because a very wise woman said, only hurting people hurt people.
Yes.
So well done.
So true. Thank you. And when mum talked about moving into the location where I live, we were all on the phone to each other. Have you heard what she wants to do? Because she was 2 hours away, right? And it was quite comfortable. And then we're all having these natters on the phone about it. We all had something to say about it. And then all of a sudden I could just see myself so clearly, and I realized what I was doing. So I just rang her and I said, Mum, I think you should live wherever you want to. And if you want to live here, I'll help you find a place to live in. Because she was very independent. She loved her own space. And that changed, again, the dynamic. But it also required me to really take a lot of responsibility for my own time and my own boundaries, which I found quite a struggle. But man, oh man, was it worth it?
And before we drift too far away, I should probably just go back to that thing you said before and there about gratitude. I think it's worth just camping there for a second and really establishing exactly how crucial that is. Gratitude is a great ideology for all things, obviously, in your life. But I've seen it destroy many good relationships, and I've seen it cost partners, wonderful partners. And the reality is, you can either focus on what you have, or you can focus on what you don't have. You can't do both. And gratitude allows us to. Gratitude is the path to happiness, and focusing on what you don't have is so self-destructive. So excellent point, and worth highlighting, Anaya.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you. Carol Ann, you've got quite a lot to say about gratitude as well. You're a very grateful person. You live your life, I mean, because I know you so well. You know, well, that's the truth, isn't it? And I know that because I see how you live your life, and I know that you experience a lot of gratitude in your life as a practice.
Yeah, but it's just something that I do without even thinking about it. You know, I have my time at night before I go to sleep that I express my gratitude for things that have happened. But when something will happen, you know, I'll express my thanks and my gratitude, and even when I'm in the say if I'm driving in the car, it's just a silly little thing that, you know, I sort of think to myself, oh, I'd like to get through this green light before it changes to red. And then when I get through the green light, oh, thank you. And, you know, just little expressing your gratitude so many ways. And once you start practicing expressing gratitude, it just happens automatically. And you know, you don't even have to think about it. There's so many things in our day. We look out at the trees and express my gratitude for where I live, and to see the butterflies, and to harvest the honey from the bees, and doing all of these things. It's just, I have so much to be grateful for, and I'm just so blessed.
So blessed. And it's the little things, isn't it? There's a couple of comments here, guys. I'm definitely going to come to those in a sec. While we're on the topic of gratitude, and because I've been speaking about my relationship with my mum, I got a book called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. And I started, it's a kind of a doing book, right? You sort of read your bit for the day and you do that bit, and that's how I proceeded through the whole book. And when I got to the gratitude section, you just had to choose someone that you wanted to improve your relationship with via gratitude. And so naturally I chose my mum. And at this stage, you know, we weren't talking very much, let me tell you. And one of my core issues with my mum was she'd never said thank you to me for anything. And that really bugged me so bad. You know, that bug when you just get that burn around it. Anyway, so I did exactly what the book said, right? That's it. No more, no less. Did the exercise, kept doing the exercise. A couple of days later, the phone rings and I pick it up and here's Mum. And she said, Anaya, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I cannot thank you enough. Working with the angels really does work. How's that?
That's good to hear.
You could have just knocked me over literally with a feather. And that was the moment I got it. Oh, my Lord, it's really true. My relationships are all about me. Because when I'm in a healthy place, I'll have healthy relationships, and those that aren't will simply fall away because they cannot be sustained. Right? So, bingo. So Erin says, brilliant. So setting your own boundaries with conviction and sticking to them without worrying about what makes the other person feel, exclamation mark. light bulb moment there. And thank you, Anaya. So it's always with respect, but it's how do we do it? Hey, Erin, how do we communicate our needs? And the other person's responsible for how they respond to it, right?
Can I just add at this point, Anaya, that what happens when a person has been doing a behavior and suddenly it's not working anymore, as in you've set your boundary, be prepared, because their instinctual response will be to do it more often and to do it louder, because they think, oh, they just haven't heard me. So expect that resistance and expect that friction. That means it's working. Okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, Philip, because I got a phone call from Mum one day. Oh, Naya, can you come and get my prescription? And I'm doing a parody, but I'm not being disrespectful because this is the way Mum is talking. Can you just get my prescription and take it to the pharmacy for me? I said, Mum, just ring them up, honey bun, because they'll deliver it. Oh, no, I don't like them there. I just don't like them. And I said, well, Mum, you don't have to like them, love. They'll deliver it to you. And all of my buttons are yelling by this stage. Can you please come and get it for me? I need you. Oh, my God. I'm just absolute. And I realize I have to do this in what I'm learning. So I said to her, you know what, Mum? I'm sorry, I can't today. But if you ring them up, I know they will deliver it to you. Give me a bell once you've got it. Got to go now, love. Bye. And off I went. Oh, my heart was pounding, right? Sounds really, but my heart was pounding. My inner child's going, she won't love you anymore. Look, you've let her down. But anyway, that afternoon, I get a phone call. Oh, Anaya. Oh, aren't they wonderful people at that chemist? I had my prescription within 35 minutes. God, they're wonderful. So that was how it was. You're right, because Mum then employed a lot of stuff, just saying I'm too unwell and I need you and help me, and that was always my trigger. I've got to do everything I can because Mum's happiness is my responsibility. So I began to see that Mum was helping me. She was this incredible teacher for me, and the love that we ended up for each other. Oh my God, it's one of the most priceless gifts I could ever have received in my life. Because now that she's no longer here, I'm not thinking about all the things I should have said, wish I'd have done. I'm remembering all the wonderful things that happened, and all the things that used to bother me don't even have come into my head, except for moments like this as a teaching moment and a sharing moment. So the benefits are huge, Philip, and very long-reaching.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is gorgeous, Carol Ann.
Yes, so I think that I'll just read out Fatima's comment, and she said, sadly, today's relationships lack the patience, respect and resilience of those of our parents' generation, where when they had rough times, they chose to work it out instead of giving up on a relationship. Granted, if the relationship is toxic or detrimental, then parting ways is not the end.
Philip?
Very true. Very true. One of the many I don't like using the word epidemic because obviously we're going through an epidemic, but one of the many emotional epidemics I'm seeing, and it gets worse with every younger generation, is less resilience. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, is resilience is one of those things which, when you're in a difficult time with your loving partner, resilience allows you to tough it out, work together for a resolution, experience the frustration, but not be defeated by it, and grow together. No resilience, it's just every problem is too much to handle and I'm just out of here. So it's always the running away. Definitely something that comes up a lot. Yeah.
Fabulous. And we've got a comment in here. Love you, Philip. I'm one of our participants.
Thank you.
Erin says, she's replying to Fatima, I agree. I'm so grateful for this platform. So obviously I've missed, oh, here we go. Feeling so grateful for you all putting together this lovely show to brighten our hearts and souls. And Erin says she agrees. She's so grateful for this platform. And that is brilliant. Lovely, lovely ladies, because this is what it's all about for us. This is what Angel Heart Radio is. It's all about the heart of the matter, how important we are, the love we express and experience, the community that we create together. Because as Philip was saying before, resilience comes from community as well. And not everyone is blessed enough to have a community around them. Some people are very isolated. So being so blessed, we need to really experience that, share that, love that, give gratitude for that, and support that so that we can continue to grow, continue to share more and more. Amazing people like Philip. I mean, I am so thrilled to have you with us today, Philip. I love what you've been sharing. I love your clear communication style, and you're able to, which I've never mastered, grab a point from back here and bring it back in later. So it all gets, tied up together very nicely. And then you put a real pretty bow on it. So that's brilliant.
I think that real pretty bow is a wonderful way for us to sort of bring
Yes.
Thank you. I've never been qualified to have a bow analogy attached to my work, so that's a big moment for me. Thank you.
It is.
Only on Angel Heart Radio, folks. You saw it here first.
I'm always very, very humbled to be able to do things like this and speak, and I always must give credit where credit is due, because I'm not where I would be today had I not had my incredible journey with God. And so, and again to you too, what an amazing pair, and I so respect the work you do and everything you put together. So thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. We'll round out by saying Erin says she loves you too, Philip, and oh, and Erin Carol Ann. So you and then she's put a whole bunch of bows into the comments.
We actually have wonderful people who share our show with us, and we're just so blessed for that. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. And if you would like us to see if we can have Philip back, if you would like to let us know possibly a subject or a range of subjects that might be in a topic that you would like, heaps of hearts going in that fantastic, I love seeing those hearts pop up. Thank you. Let us know. Okay, guys, you've been wonderful, amazing, really valuable today. And thank you so much for all your contributions to this wonderful conversation that we've been so blessed to bring you with Philip Duxfield. And you will find Philip Rogue Therapies here on Facebook. You can connect with him. You can message him, emails there. The whole lot's there, and you can work out a way to work with Philip if that feels like something you would like to explore for yourself. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Philip, for being here with us and for your wonderful comments and guidance, and we look forward to another time. So
thank you both.
Thank you, guys. Remember, thank you, Carol Ann. Love you.
Love you too, Anaya.
Apparently I love you more. I said love 3 times.
Now
it's all right. I'm quite healthy inside. It'll be fine. I'll cope with that later after a quiet sob into a warm blankie. Thanks, everyone. Take good care of you. Please look after you. And remember that you matter in the world. And one of the best choices you will ever make in your entire life is to be kind to you, because when we're kind to others, it's easy to be kind. I'm sorry, when we're kind to ourselves, it's then easy to be kind to other people, right? And it also means that it's easier for us to accept kindness, because it's not just about giving, it's also about receiving. And you matter and deserve to receive beautiful love and kindness in your life. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And we look forward to another show next week and to hearing any suggestions you've got for shows that you might like us to do with Philip, topics that you might like us to present. So thanks, everyone. Take good care, and we will see you next week.
Next week, everyone. Don't forget
Bye.
to come